Vivek, guys, the one, the only Vivek. We just have a couple questions to ask you.
Trouble again?
No, but we had that's the first question. So how much trouble did I get you in when you appeared on the podcast and we asked about 9/11?
I mean, in one sense, like a ton of trouble. In another sense, like that's exactly what we need to be doing, is just speaking the hard truth. I mean, you had like a lighthearted tone, but it was a serious question.
Very serious.
Has our government told us the truth about 9/11? The answer is no. In fact, we know they've systematically lied to us. The FBI did, and the Jan 6, we'll get to that in a second. The 9/11 Commission, we'll talk about the Jan 6 Commission separately. The 9/11 Commission and the FBI both said there was no Saudi Arabian involvement. Omar al-Bayoumi, the 42-year-old graduate student who randomly met two of the hijackers in LAX airport and then suddenly helped them open their bank account. So he was just a friend they met at the airport. It was a lie. And so, you know what? If that got me in trouble last time, and saying this again, that's true again, sometimes the truth does get you in trouble. Wall Street Journal editorial board about lost its mind and had a conniption, and so did much of the rest of that mainstream media ecosystem amongst conservative and liberal media alike. It's the truth. And so the funny thing about it that was a good learning for me, and it actually gave me some encouragement for the rest of the race of how I wanted to run this. It was actually an interesting moment for me. Is the eye-opening moment to me was these people had far more of a problem with me saying something that was true about the government than they did about the government systematically lying to us about one of the most important events in our lifetime and in our history.
Caitlin Collins
what does that
more
tell
mad
you?
at you
That's
than
right.
for the government.
For saying it, right? So she's mad at me for saying that the 9/11 Commission and the FBI's reporting on Saudi Arabia's involvement.
28 redacted pages of the 9/11 Commission report, so that we don't know the truth.
But what we do know is the declassified documents that came out 2 years ago. So I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I just believe in following facts and reality, but opening our eyes to the ugly facts, especially when they're ugly. And yet what struck me about the media, and that's really since then, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been on a bit of a rampage tear against the mainstream media. That was one of the things that opened my eyes, is these people have more of a problem with me speaking something that's the definitive truth, because it's uncomfortable, than they do with a government that has systematically lied to the people. And if the media isn't going to do its job, then now it's time for a presidential candidate and hopefully a president of this country who will.
Well, you've been running a heck of a campaign. We've been on 5 stops with you today, and we know you got to go here in a second, but we want to ask you 2 hard questions. What is the deal with the Epstein files and the release? Ever actually get anybody like Bill Clinton's on the plane 50 times? We know that he was doing stuff with Monica Lewinsky. He has a seedy sexual past. Will we get any sort of retribution for all of the horrible criminality that Jeffrey Epstein committed with the most elite people in America?
Well, before you get to retribution, I still want to get to more facts. Right? I think probably what you see in recent days, I suspect, has the qualities of a deflection to it. Why the limited release? Why the partial release? The government should just tell us everything they know. I mean, what are the actual hard facts, not just the external, but the internal, about contend with what Jeff Epstein's brother had to say, contend with prior facts that have been reported. Just tell us the truth. So I'd say let's get the truth on the table. And I'm not a guy that wants to foreordain judgment. I believe the last bastion of trust that we ought to have in our institutions is in the judicial system at least. So let it go through the court of law, get the facts on the table. If it appears that somebody has actually broken the law, they deserve to be investigated and prosecuted. And if somebody's convicted according to the court system as we have it, they deserve to be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. But right now, I'll just start with the basics before we get to retribution or anything else. We don't have the facts. And I think that a lot of people are being duped into believing that somehow they've been placated. You know, and I think that this is the deflection, the trick, right? The feigned retreat, to say that, hey, we gave you something to placate the demand without actually being truthful about what we've exactly received. And so let's start with the basics, this thing we call facts. I don't believe we have them yet. And I think if I'm president, from this issue, from the Jeffrey Epstein client list to the truth of what really happened, from 9/11 to January 6th, to how our money's being spent in Ukraine, to the Nashville transgender shooter manifesto, you name it, we deserve a government that tells the people the truth again. We can handle the truth.
And one thing I want to say, Vivek has been talking about how he's going to help all the J6ers. That's been one of his main talking points. That's one of the main things that I respect about you. Now, we got to let you go, but we're going to have to ask one question. My producer, we have this Nikki Haley style. Vivek is awesome. We love Vivek, so we love this troll. I think that was awesome how it went.
Can I say something about that? It's some people fall into this trap of thinking it's Republicans versus Democrats. On the issues that matter most, our failed foreign policy of keeping the war machine turning, on the issue of the Patriot Act, which is one of the great mistakes we made in the aftermath of 9/11, that was brought to you by a Bush-Cheney administration. Yep. And so if you want to vote for the Patriot Act or want to vote for the endless no-win wars in this country, the best candidate in this race to actually advance that agenda is a Republican, not a Democrat.
Yes, sir.
And so don't be duped. And I do think that there's something else going on that we ought not be duped by. I don't know if you heard me mention in one of these speeches, but I think they're leading us into a trap right now.
Of course.
I think that they are selling us the rope today that they're going to use to hang us tomorrow. I think that this system has decided by hell or high water, one way or another, it will stop at nothing. They will stop at nothing. They've made that clear. To keep Donald Trump out of contention a few months from now, have whichever puppet it is, not the Nikki Haley version of that,
yes,
is what I think is at work, trot her out, or whoever it is, but that's probably the most convenient puppet they're rooting for now, make it a two-horse race, eliminate Trump from contention. I think every sign points to that actually being the reality they're heading towards, and I refuse to let that happen.
Yeah, we know
I'm in
the
this race to
system.
make it happen in terms of the truth of taking our America First agenda to the next level. That's what it's going to take.
And we know the system's rigged. Are you worried about the system being rigged against you, Vivek?
Well, of course. I mean, you see even just the way in which I've been the most censored candidate in this race already, and I forget which nonprofit group was that was found. But I'm not a guy who sits here wallowing in victimhood.
You're the Hindu face of white supremacy, I think. Is that
Let's win, right? It's funny. It's funny how that works. Is they were hitting Steve King, the congressman who they wrongfully tarred as a racist and white supremacist. He's not. He's a patriot, and I've gotten to know him, and I think he's a
nice guy,
decent patriot. But the lack of self-awareness, where they say, "Well, I'm not denouncing white supremacy. You tell me what white supremacy is before I can say whether I denounce it." I denounce invidious racial discrimination. So I told that to the Washington Post. But the irony is they dismiss Steve King as a racist and a white supremacist, with the utter lack of self-awareness that he has just endorsed, thrown his full-throated endorsement, not behind Donald Trump or anybody else, but a brown-skinned guy named Vivek Ramaswamy. Go figure. The lack of self-awareness is astounding, but it kind of cracks me up from time to time. And,
it's ridiculous that they would even call him a white supremacist when he supports you. Okay, last thing, Jimmy, this is my dumb producer. He wants to ask you all the way. I know, I hate his suit.
So Alex is a tough boss.
I am.
Borderline abusive. How do you treat your producers? Like,
Jimmy, do not ask questions like that! Jimmy, gosh! I'm sorry about that. I apologize that he asked that question. Don't worry about that. Okay, Vivek, you've run a better campaign than DeSantis. You've run a better campaign than Nikki Haley. I think that your poll numbers are going to be great. What do you think is going to happen on January 15th right now? Give us your, before you go, what do you think is going to happen?
I think we will shock the system, and my gut instinct is I'm going to win the Iowa caucus. But I think regardless, I am rock solid that we're going to shock the system.
And the fact that you've disrupted so much stuff, that's why they're so scared of you. You're a disruptor. Continue to disrupt, Vivek. You become an icon very quickly. And I know a lot of people probably at first were skeptical, who is this new guy? But I'm telling you, you've really shown up on the scene. You've been about it. You've talked the cold, hard facts that none of these other politicians have, and that's why you've earned my respect, and I think that's why you've earned the respect of millions of people across America. So thank you, Vivek.
Thanks, man.
Guys,
warmed up.
let's get the Vivek equals awesome.
Oh, yeah, well, okay, last. I crumbled it up, Jimmy, because I'm trying to do a dang interview with him. Okay, we get it. One street.
So,
Vivek equals awesome, guys. We love this guy. Vote for Vivek in the caucus. Nikki Haley, you stink. DeSantis, go get some new boots. All right, thank you, Vivek. Get out of here. See ya. All right. I know he did recover. He's tough. We got the light, guys. We're going crazy.
Yeah,
We're gonna pick it all up. Yeah. Oh yeah. We got it. All right, Jimmy. I should have smashed the trash can over his head. Okay, hold the light, Jimmy. Hold it. Thank you, Vivek.